I'm Jose Francisco González Ramos. When I was 27 years old, I left a very demanding job in management consulting for a job that was even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach 7th graders math in the New York City's public schools. And like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests, I gave it homework assignments. When I work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ was not the only one difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers did not have a strongest IQ. Some of the smartest kids weren't doing so well. And that got me thinking. Kinds of things you need to learn in 7th grade math sure are hard. Precious decimals, the area of parallelogram, but these concepts are not possible. And I was firmly convinced that every one of my students could learn material if they work hard and hard enough. After several more years of teaching, I came to the conclusion that what we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. In education, the one thing we know how to measure best is IQ. But what if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? So I left the classroom and I went to graduate school to become a psychologist. I started studying kids and adults in all time of super challenging settings. And in every study my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to the West Point Military Academy. We tried to stay in military training and the ones who retired. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would go to advance in the competition. We studied rocket teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking which teacher I'm still being here in teaching by the end of the school year. And of those, who will be the most effective in improving learning results? Which of these cells is going to keep their jobs? Who's going to earn the most money? In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success, and it wasn't social intelligence, wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't definitely IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like a marathon, not a race. A few years ago, I started studying yields in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to check my questionnaires and waited around 1 year to see they graduated. Turns out that regular kids were significantly more probable of writing. Even when I matched them, every characteristic I couldn't measure, things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even housekeeping fell. So it's not just the West Point or the National Spelling Bee or what matters, it's also in school, especially for kids that trying to dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about threat is how little we know, how little science we know about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grading kids? What do I do to teach? How do I keep them motivated for the long term? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you perfect. I did I show very quickly. I made it down to individuals who simply do not follow through the rules. Grade is usually unrelated with a simple talents. So far, the best idea I've read is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed in Stanford University by Carol Dweck. And if it's the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck have shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and it grows in response to challenge, they're much likely to persevere when they fail, because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mind is a great idea to build up information, but we need more. And that's when I had my remark, because that's the word we need in front of us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to taste them. We need to measure if we have been successful, and we need to be willing to fail, to be wrong. You start over again with the lessons learned. Another way, we need to be greedy about getting our kids good ears. Angela Lee here talks to us about something very interesting that sometimes is not quite contemplated in the reality we've lived in through the years. For example, this is greed. Greed is very important at the time of trying to achieve something, starting by knowledge. She mentioned something about the IQ as a measure of students in schools, in private schools, public schools. All of that depends on how big your IQ is. Now, she displays the grade as something very important at the time of wanting to get further in something. For example, when you don't know how to do something, you know that if you make the mistakes doing something, you need to improve your skills about that subject, about that ability, about that activity. You can do it over and over again, because brain works in very, very unfunctional ways, mostly because of the belief of knowing how good you are at doing something. So that is very interesting. Now, the grid is not only a simple way to try to know to achieve something. No, it's more than something that you need to grow. You need to grow your own grid in order to get or to contemplate more things in a long term way. So that's very interesting. Now, she manages it as the key of success. The key of success is the grid of knowing something. Do not be someone that it says that is okay with the things that he or she already has. That is very important. That is my explanation about this.